So, today is October 22nd, 2025, and I'm here with.
Rich Van.
So, before we begin, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am a mortgage lender for 20 years here in Riverside. I'm a lifelong Riverside resident. I've got three kids and one 3-year-old granddaughter. I've been married for 26 years and love what I do and love where I live.
Awesome. Then, knowing that, you're a mortgage lender and that you've given your life to help support people in buying their houses and securing a future for themselves. I guess what I want to ask is, what baby steps did it take for you to discover your passion in life?
Yep, very good question. So I always wanted to be self-employed since I was a kid. When I was a little boy, my mom let me set up a stand outside of our house on Orange Street with drawings that I made, and I was selling drawings for 10 cents each. So ever since I was little, I wanted to work for myself. After high school, I tried a couple businesses. I had a computer repair business and an auto detailing business, and then my wife and I had two skate shops here in town. And while I loved being self-employed, none of those things were really fulfilling. None of them were a passion of mine. It was just something I did for money. So my partner here at work, him and I had been friends since I was in middle school, and he had got into mortgage lending and wanted me to get involved. And for a few years, I didn't want to get involved. I didn't really want to sit in an office behind a desk all day, but it came to a point where I wasn't able to pay the bills with what I was doing, so we got together, and that's kind of where I started. What I learned from mortgages is it is very much, I'm self-employed, it's a 100% commission job, so the harder I work, the more I can make, but I also kind of fell in love with the industry and what I was doing. I was meeting with families who were trying to buy their first house and kind of guiding them along that path. Some were ready right away and some weren't. And the more challenging they were, the more fun it was to me because I was able to kind of mentor them, tell them the steps they needed to do or anything that needed to happen for them to be able to buy a house. And the first time I was able to see that come to fruition, from the time they sat at my desk unready until we were able to sign loan docs when they got in their house, I was hooked. It was an amazing feeling. And the more I did it, the better I got. And 20 years later, I love it as much today as I did with the very first one.
That's amazing that you're really able to carve a path for yourself, especially like starting out selling those drawings and then being able to like see that this is not what I like, so I'm going to try this, or this is not what I like, so I'm going to try another thing. I guess thinking about, all the experiences and traits that you built up for yourself, what do you think is the most important life skill and quality that has served you throughout all of your time?
So something my mom taught me when I was young is that you don't judge anybody, and that everybody has wisdom to offer, and that we never look down upon anybody, because the people some of us would look down on or think less of, really that was us. That was my family. That was my mom. She was a waitress, working to provide for four kids, and we moved all the time and we bounced around, and we depended on some welfare services to get by. And so that empathy, I guess, is what has carried me, not to ever look down on anybody and know that everybody is worthy, and everybody deserves a chance, and everybody's trying, to be honest. It's the path is easier for some than others, but that doesn't mean that everybody's not worthy of achieving that same goal. And so I think that's one of my better traits, and I got that from my mom, that serve everybody well. Everybody's is deserving of a chance.
Yeah, yeah. So you really have you mentioned a high level of empathy and a high level of this person is able to achieve things, so they should be able to continue on that path.
Yeah, it's we never know what path someone's on, or what their life has been like up to that point, and not everybody has the same opportunities as others, to no fault of their own, and to no credit of their own either. You know, we're born into situations or offered situations that not everybody gets, and so for that reason, that's kind of where that empathy comes from, I think, because I was one of those people that the opportunities weren't given to. I had to fight for every one of them. And while I don't put anybody down for being in the situation, good for them. It's great. I want to see everybody do well. And for the ones that are fighting their butts off to get to that point, I want to support them. I want to see them succeed as well.
Amazing. Hey, congratulations. You've developed your soul to be really like nurturing and gold. So I respect that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I guess thinking about like those difficult situations that people do come across or that they live through, I guess I'm really curious about like, what do you feel is the most important lesson that you learned from before you went through your own difficulties and after?
So the most important lesson I've learned from before and after is that anybody can succeed if they're willing to work, okay? My success came through a lot of hard work and a lot of grinding and a lot of sacrifice on my wife's part, on my family's part, and my wife was supportive of everything I tried to do. Any crazy idea I had or any business I wanted to start, she believed in me, and that belief was so important to me, being able to take these chances and risks, and that made me want to succeed even more. That, man, she's believing in me, she depends on me, I've got to make this work. So it took a lot of work, but I am someone who very easily could have fallen through the cracks, someone who could have gone down a whole different path, and that's me and my sisters, all three of us. We all could have gone one way or another, and I know that fork in the road exists for every single person. And so I think what I've learned is, through my own success and failures and everything I've experienced, that any one of us who's willing to work and put in the time can reach a level of success. And success doesn't mean you're rich or you own a business or anything. Success might mean you're working your dream job, and that could be anything. So I think that's probably what I've learned, that I may have had doubts in the beginning, that how am I ever going to get here? You know, it's but having done it, that is a core belief of mine now, that working hard could lead to success.
Interesting. And I actually wanted to go back to what you said about doubts specifically. Like, is there a specific habit or trait that you practice every day that helps you push past the times where you don't want to get out of bed?
Well, I am motivated to get out of bed every day. That's not an issue of mine, and that's been the case since I was young. I've always been very driven, and I wake up early every morning. I start with a walk, and one of my habits, I guess, is I do walk every morning about 3 miles at 4 in the morning, and that quiet time, that alone time, is where I get to say my prayers, and I pray for guidance, and I pray for an open heart and an understanding heart. I get to think through my day, what challenges are ahead, how I plan to attack them. It's just that kind of clarity in the morning that lets me attack the day. As soon as I hit the office, I'm ready to go. I'm making phone calls, I'm sending emails. I'm not getting my first cup of coffee when I sit at my desk. So I think that has probably been the best habit I've formed, is that early start to the morning, a walk, and quiet time in the mornings.
So you really take the time at the start of your day to make sure that there's clarity and peace when you attack the rest of the day.
I do. There's a balance to this, because the schedule I keep is crazy. It's constant, it's nonstop, and if you don't carve out that time for yourself, it will overwhelm you, it will consume you. I think it makes you kind of a miserable person. It makes me if you let this stuff consume you, you're sacrificing your family and your kids and your wife and your friends, and I don't want to do that. There's got to be balance, and that quiet time in the morning kind of sets the table and allows me to have that balance. Because I know people that don't do that. They wake up and hit it hard, and they do it all the way till they go to bed, and I don't think they're living happy lives. They're successful, and they're doing well, but I don't know how balanced they are, how happy they are.
Yeah. Thinking about how you're really able to find that balance for yourself, to spend time with loved ones and make sure that there's support there. I guess I would ask, not just as organization being one of your skills or your time management, I'm curious about, like, if you could say that there was one key quality about yourself that you valued the most and that you do better than anyone else, what would that one quality be?
I can answer this one pretty easily. I am a very good listener. I listen, and when I say listen, I'm actually listening to what you have to say. I don't pretend to know more than anybody. I don't think I'm ever the smartest person in any room I'm sitting in. I want to learn from everybody that's around me. I want to understand them, their lives, what they're after, what their goals are, whether that's with mortgages or with any of these city organizations I'm a part of, or just with friends and family. I actually listen, and I'm not formulating my response while they're talking. I'm not thinking of how right or wrong they might be, whether I agree or don't agree. We've all got life experiences that led us to certain beliefs, and I'm fascinated by it. And I love the stories that I hear. When you actually listen, you can find common ground with anybody you're sitting across from. And that's what I'm always looking for. Where can I develop a relationship here? Where can I take this conversation further? And I think that's a quality that is kind of rare these days. We're all very prepared to argue with a person or disagree with a person, and I'm looking for ways to connect and agree. So I think listening is probably one of my best traits.
And, thinking about how you're able to find that common ground with different people, rather than just thinking, like, you're wrong, I want to speak. What does it look like to be a good listener?
That's a good question. To be a good listener is really to clear your mind when you're in a conversation, to focus on what the person's telling you and to absorb it. And I find myself sometimes, especially with my kids, which I'm sorry to say, when they're telling me about their day, if I've got a lot going on, I'm kind of thinking about what's going on and not listening to them. And then I realize immediately when they look back at me for a response, I'm like, oh, I blew it. I wasn't listening. I'm sorry. And it really does take work to be a good listener, because there's a lot of things going through our minds, especially when there's stresses in the world, there's bills to be paid, there's deadlines that need to be met, and to actually tune those things out and focus on the conversation in front of you is very important. And it's something that took practice. It didn't come easily to me, and I've practiced at it, and I think I haven't mastered it by any means, but I've gotten well. So it actually takes effort to be a listener. You have to tune out everything else going through your mind, and there's always, all of us have things on our mind, but let those things go. The person sitting across from you deserves your attention.
What a powerful statement. I agree with the fact that the person across from you deserving your attention, especially because, as you mentioned, it's getting harder and harder to find people willing to find that common ground and listen to each other. I guess the last thing that I'm curious about would be, if you could change one thing about the world currently, what do you think you would approach first?
That is deep. Change one thing about the world, not just our country, the world. I would change the way we view each other, especially in the political world. Politics have divided us almost evenly across our country, across the world. We've got friends and enemies based on what we're told. I think the media plays a big part in that, and I think there's I don't want to get too political here, but if to live without judgment, I think, is where I would change. It goes back to what I said about having experienced what a person's experienced in life. We all have unique experiences from childhood to adulthood. We have unique experiences that formed our opinions. And we tend to judge each other's opinions without knowing those experiences, why we came to the opinions we have. And that's wrong. It's not fair. And that current climate we're living in is kind of tearing us apart, right? We've become enemies with family members. We've all heard the stories about, Thanksgiving dinners not being any fun anymore, and family members not getting together anymore because of politics. What a silly thing. And I understand how we got here. It's some of the things that divide us are very divisive. We couldn't be further apart on some of these things going on in the world. But to not be willing to sit across from someone who disagrees with you, I think is a sign of immaturity, to be honest, because it takes a mature person and a wise person to sit across from someone you completely disagree with and have a conversation. And not that you're trying to change each other's minds. That should never be the goal. Whatever you live through, I can't change that. And your opinions that came from that experience, I can't change it either, nor should I want to try. But I think we want to, and we think we should. And when it doesn't work and when they push back, that's where we butt heads and where we create and form enemies. And that's kind of where our country is at for sure. I think that's spread through most of the world, and I wish that wasn't the case. I wish we would be more empathetic to each other's opinions and views, find common ground, negotiate more, come up with ways we can all move forward rather than dividing us further.
Incredible. You're definitely someone who cares for the community and the healing of it, rather than, as you mentioned, the continued separation of community member from community member. And just for the mindset that you've been able to develop from your experiences, from everything that you've listened to in the community, I'm grateful that you give me the time to share those things. And I just want to say that I really appreciate your time. Your personality is important. And to be able to demonstrate that to others, I think will serve the whole community to heal. So for sharing with me and for sharing for whoever listens, you have my thanks.
I appreciate it. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak. The couple conversations we had have been fantastic, and I wish you all the best in your endeavors, and I hope you find great success.
Thank you so much. And with that, thank you for listening, and have a good day.